Hey, what's up, y'all? Y'all good? I hope so. Y'all listen, let's get into my deep dive of Jason's lyric. I have seen this movie so many times, but every time I see it, I see something different. And if you've been here for a while, you know I love psychology. I love the how you go deep into movies, the symbolisms, seeing things and thinking about things in different ways. I just like that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna need y'all to get down in the comments and tell me what you thought about this video, okay? So the movie opens with Al Green singing Love and Happiness. And you'll hear Al say love and happiness, something that can make you do wrong and make you do right. Then we hear a sound bite where you hear someone crying and screaming saying, "Leave me alone, get out." Then there's a gunshot. Then we see Jason on the bus. Now if you go back and look at that scene, when they filmed Jason from outside the bus window, you can see Lyric's shirt. But as he's looking out of the window, there's a monologue where he says, "Ghost. I guess everyone lives with them. Some good, some bad. But memories won't let you forget. They have a way of boomeranging, changing the life forever." Then we see Mad Dog with Jason and Josh when they were kids. Happier times. They were in this field of flowers. I think they were daisies, pinks, purples, whites. This is where the first signs of symbolism comes in for me. So Mad Dog had on a yellow shirt, Josh's shirt was green, and Jason had on a plaid shirt, which I found interesting because yellow usually symbolizes joy, fun, love, and happiness. That goes back to the opening song. Then with Josh and green, green is usually associated with envy, money, emotional immaturity, arrested development. Like when you hear people say, "Oh, he a little green." And Josh was all of those things in my opinion. He was envious of Jason's relationship with their mom. He was always looking for a way to make money. He had arrested development because he wasn't able to properly process what happened that night. Back then, they probably didn't think about or consider therapy. That type of help wasn't offered to him. He was emotionally immature in a lot of ways, but a lot of it wasn't his fault. He was just a traumatized little boy in a man's body. Then you have Jason. He's in a plaid shirt, and that gave layers and division. So Jason was a very layered person. He had taken on the position of protector, my brother's keeper, the man of the house, the healer, the band-aid, all the while trying to maintain his own sanity. I really feel like Jason had survivor's guilt, and he was punishing himself when it came to his brother. He was choosing loyalty over leaving his brother over his new position in Dallas. And there's no telling how many times Jason had those type of opportunities, because remember when he told his boss he couldn't take the job, his boss said, "It's that brother yours, ain't it? Every time he get out, you start effing up." And Jason also chose his brother over his relationship. So whoever the costume designer was, I think they did a good job in that scene. I'm not sure if they even looked at it that way, but that stood out to me. And as they were in the field of flowers, they were waiting for the rainmaker. That's what Mad Dog called the crop duster. Mad Dog was very comforting in that scene. He reassured them that everything was okay and that it was just water. They were so excited. You could hear Josh say, "Here it comes, Daddy. I see it coming." All you heard was giggles and laughter. And when the rain fell down on them, you could just see the joy in their faces. And you hear the lyrics, "I've been loving you too long to stop now. You were tired and you want to be free. My love is growing stronger as you become a habit to me." And you see Mad Dog's reflection in the rearview mirror, but he doesn't look the same. He looks very downtrodden, very sad. It's not the same joyful Mad Dog that we saw earlier. And those lyrics can apply to Mad Dog or they can apply to Jason. Mad Dog, he was loving Gloria too long, but he didn't want to stop, even though she was tired and she wanted to be free. She was free as far as not living with him, but she wasn't free from him mentally and emotionally. But Mad Dog was not ready to let go, because finding ways to get back with Gloria and getting his family back together had become a habit for him. Same way adult Jason had been loving his brother too long, he was tired and he wanted to be free. But like I said, I feel like Jason suffered from survivor's guilt, and putting his life to the side and being there for his brother became a habit for him. He took their father from them, and even though he didn't do it intentionally, it still happened. And he could feel like that loss also made him lose the brother that he could have had if that incident never happened. So Mad Dog pulls up at Gloria's house and he gets out of his taxi, and you can hear Jason narrating and says, "Mama say, Vietnam drove Mad Dog crazy. When he lost his leg, he lost his mind. But I wanted to love him. I wanted the magic back." Now Mad Dog has this water gun that looks like the real thing, and you can see Josh tensing up as soon as Mad Dog gets out of the car. So Jason gives him a hug and Mad Dog tells him, "You getting big. Well, you take care of your mama?" He's like, "Yeah." He said, "You take care of your mama, don't he?" And he tells Jason that they're going to be a family again. And Jason makes this face because he knows that's not going to happen. Then when Mad Dog goes to speak to Josh, he recoils. And that makes Mad Dog feel a little sad, and he looks away. But the sound of the ice cream truck snaps him out of it, and he asks the boys if they wanted ice cream. The only thing Josh wants to do is get away from Mad Dog. Mad Dog grabs his arm, and Josh, he's trying to pull away, and Mad Dog has this look in his eyes like he can't understand why his son wants nothing to do with him. And Jason politely tells Mad Dog to let Josh go because he was hurting him. So he finally released him, and Josh runs in the house. So Jason tells Mad Dog, like, "Don't worry about it. We can have ice cream another day." Then Mad Dog goes to give Jason some money, but then this boy runs through and tries to snatch his wallet. And Mad Dog caught the boy's leg with his cane and just started wailing on the boy. And he says, "You want to try and steal something from me, boy?" And I think Mad Dog had a flashback to the war or post-war, where he may have felt like the war has already taken everything from me. My life, my family, and you got the nerve to try to take something else? Oh no, sir, I'll show you. And you could see the fear in Jason's eyes, and he was yelling for Mad Dog to stop. He finally let the boy go, and he tells Jason to never disrespect the man's property. So he hands Jason $1, and Jason is scared out of his mind. He is trembling and everything. Josh was standing in the doorway, seething. So in Jason's narration, he says that Josh and Mad Dog never got along because he could never get used to the mood swings, and that Josh didn't like the way Mad Dog treated their mom. And I noticed that the colors had changed. When we first saw them, everything was vibrant, colorful, joyous. But this time, Josh has on blue, Jason had on gray, but his sleeves were blue with red and white stripes. And Mad Dog had on brown and black. And he pulls up in a yellow taxi. When at first, he wore yellow, he embodied joy. But now his colors get weary, angry. He's repressed and exhausted. Trauma and pain, and now that joy, that yellow, is no longer in him. It's now temporary. It only carries him places, but it doesn't stay with him. Then Josh is in blue, and it's giving the negative side of blue: sadness, depression, distant, cold, the way he is toward Mad Dog. Then you have Jason in another shirt that could be considered layered. The gray is giving confusion. Black and white makes gray. So he's confused. He's scared of Mad Dog, but he still want to love him. And in this case, it's like emotional confusion. But his sleeves were blue, red, and white. He had a darker blue, which usually has to do with trust. So he had blue, which is trust, white, which is known for innocence, and red, which usually has to do with pain, violence, or love. And here's the thing: Jason's blue is on his sleeve, on his arm. And the arms are used to reach people, hold them, protect them. But then he has the stripes, which goes back to his plaid shirt, which also gives conflict. He's conflicted between loyalty over freedom, leaving over staying, love over trauma. And every time I go back and watch this movie, I notice something different. When I first saw the movie, I think like a lot of people, we thought Josh was the one who unalived his dad. But there was a foreshadowing in this scene as Jason stands on the porch while watching Mad Dog leave, disappear from his life, and he's holding that toy GUN that his dad gave him. Like, that's crazy. So after that, you see the boys running home. They see Fast Freddy and they ask him to do a dance. Freddy hits his little two-step and he tells them the neighborhood won't hold me, baby. But unfortunately it did, because when we see Fast Freddy again, we see that more than the world took hold of him. So as the boys get closer to the house, they see their dad traumatizing their mama again. Jason says that Mad Dog stops by once a week like clockwork. He was sloppy drunk. The mother was hollering from the window, telling him to go home. He drives off. The boys run in the house, and Jason asked her if she was okay, and he was making sure Mad Dog didn't get in. The mom, of course, says she was fine, and she told the boys to get washed up for dinner. Jason says, "Mama, I'll set the table," and she smiles and lightly touches him on the cheek and says, "All right, sugar." Now Josh is standing behind them watching all of that, and he had this look of disdain on his face. So Gloria, she can feel it, and when she turns around, he says, "Why can't he just leave us the F alone?" And he goes to his room. Gloria says, "Joshua, you watch your mouth," and she tells Jason to go see after his brother. I don't really understand why she didn't go sit with Josh and talk to him instead of sending Jason to see after his brother. Like, instead of sending Jason to play parent, it could be that Josh probably responds better to Jason than he does to her. He could, in his young mind, see her as weak because she's not protecting them from Mad Dog in the way that he may feel they should be protected. Sort of like she's not standing up to him and making him leave them alone. But sending Jason or placing him in that now you're the man of the house role, in my opinion, is unfair to him because he's still a child. And for some reason, a lot of parents tend to put the older child in the bonus parent role, and I don't like it. If I was put in that position, I think that would make me never want kids, because I played the role of a parent my whole life. I would feel like my childhood was taken from me. So once I become an adult, I want to be free. So Jason tells his brother that he has to learn to watch his mouth. And his mama didn't mean any harm. She was probably in a bad mood since Mad Dog had stopped by. Josh says he ain't none but an old drunk. Jason lets him know that Mad Dog wasn't always like that, and he did a lot of special things for us. But maybe Josh just didn't remember because he was too young. So Josh wants to know if the mama ever really loved Mad Dog. And Jason said, yeah, they loved each other. And he promised Josh that everything would be alright. Then we see Mad Dog over there having an episode. He's drinking, rehearsing a proposal to Gloria, carving her name in his arm, similar to how a junkie would behave. And that goes back to the lyric in the song where Otis Redding says, "My love is growing stronger as you become a habit to me." But the thing is, Mad Dog doesn't even know who he is anymore. He's sitting in front of a shattered mirror. And usually mirrors show us our reflection, our identity, but in one piece, as a whole. The symbolism of him sitting in front of a shattered mirror is saying to me that he's broken in more ways than one. He isn't only shattered physically, but mentally as well. To be sitting there causing physical pain to yourself while carving somebody's name in your arm, it was almost like a ritual. He's sitting in front of a shattered mirror filled with her pictures, almost like a shrine for her. He had her pictures on the mirror, they on the nightstand, on the wall. Then you see him trying to get people away from him that only he can see. Mad Dog was having a psychological breakdown, and I think it's because he knew that he was losing his family. So in Mad Dog's mind, if he could get Gloria to marry him, he would be able to keep his family. And Josh did the opposite by trying to eliminate people who he felt was trying to take his brother away. So the next thing we hear is Mad Dog yelling Gloria's name and beating on the door, talking about open up the door. He's telling her that he has something for her. He wants her to open the door. She's telling him to go home. She doesn't want anything he has. Now I'm trying to figure out, if you're dealing with somebody like Mad Dog, who you know isn't all the way there, why don't you have better locks on the door? The door looked weak. She should have had one of them wood bars across the door, or locks all the way down. Deadbolts, slide locks, everything. But anyway, he keeps telling her to open the door. She says no. He kicked the door in, and that woke Jason up. Josh, he was already woke as soon as he heard Mad Dog calling his mama name. Mad Dog talking about, I got flowers. I got flowers. She keeps telling him that she doesn't want anything from him. He gonna tell her, take the goddamn flowers. He throws them at her, but she swatted them away. So since she doesn't want anything from him, he says, it's my leg, ain't it? Go ahead and tell me, it's my leg. She says, it has nothing to do with your leg. And he starts grabbing on her, trying to kiss her, talking about, I ain't man enough for you. I ain't man enough for you. Jason opens the door and sees what's happening. Josh looks like he's ready to end Mad Dog. And then you see the barrel of a gun. The screen goes black and we hear a shot. And then we see adult Jason waking up from that nightmare. He looks straight ahead where there are a lot of model planes. And on the desk is a crop duster, the rainmaker, the one that brought the magic. And since he looked there first, he was probably longing for the magic. Then he looks over to Josh's bed, but at this time in the movie, we don't know where Josh is. But Jason looks disappointed. Then he looks up at the ceiling fan where a military plane is hanging. And the interesting part about that for me is that it's stationary, as if to say nothing was about to change. And the way Jason looked from Josh's bed to that military plane, it showed how he's stuck between the past and the present. And just like that plane isn't going anywhere, I don't think he feels like he's going anywhere either, because he's still in the same place. Same house, same room, same covers, same everything. So going back to Jason waking up from the nightmare, I feel like Jason started having those nightmares as soon as it started getting closer for him to go pick up Josh. You know how it is when you have something coming up that you're very nervous about, whether that's a dental appointment, surgery, job interview, and it just really has your nervous system all out of whack. I feel like Jason was probably doing fine, but as soon as the date started getting closer and closer to get Josh, his anxiety kicked in. But 9 times out of 10, he probably knew nothing was gonna be different with Josh. So Jason goes outside to tell his mama that he was about to head out and get Josh. She tells him to be careful and bring him back home safe. But what got me is when they zoomed in on her garden, and it looked very depleted. A lot of the crops were wilting, and even though some of them had grown from seed, it looked like they struggled to get above ground. They struggled to make it out, and it was like a reflection of what their life had become, damaged, struggling. And those plants could also be her mirror, you know, showing how Gloria is also dealing with her own trauma, because not only did the boys lose their dad, but she lost Mad Dog twice. She lost him to the war and to the sun. And the scene in the garden is the opposite of the bright, vibrant field of flowers that we saw in the beginning of the movie. This garden is showing how trauma has really changed the dynamic of the family, because even though Mad Dog isn't there anymore physically, his ghost, his memories, his energy is still affecting how the family functions. And that could be one of the things Jason was talking about in the beginning of the movie when he said ghosts. I guess everyone lives with them, some good, some bad, but memories won't let you forget. And although Mad Dog wasn't there for the boys after coming back from Vietnam because of his mental illness, his life and the chaos that he brought to theirs, it still played a part in how both of the boys turned out. So Jason makes it to the prison, and we see Josh walking out like he's the Terminator or somebody. They kind of stare each other down, and they bring it in for a hug. Josh says, I see you didn't forget the way. Jason says, nigga, I done drove this road 4 times. And Josh says, well, you know what they say, 4 times is a charm. Jason says, I thought it was 3. Josh is like, you know niggas in the war can't count. And he said it like he was so proud. It's that ghetto mindset, that hood logic. But Jason wants Josh to count his blessings, since their mama is letting him come back to the house again. Now, as they're driving through the 5th Ward, you see Josh's face. It is lit up. Like, shout out to Bokeem Woodbine. He played the mess out of that role. If you look at his facial expressions in that truck, it's very childlike. It gave physically grown, but not mentally grown. Then he says, the bottoms, this my world. And Jason says, this ain't got nothing to do with the world. That's why I'm going to get me a job and get up out of here. And the look on Josh's face gave fear and uncertainty. So he's like, you leaving? Jason says, don't know yet. And Josh says, nigga, you ain't gonna go no place. And it wasn't one of those, oh man, you always say that, but you'll never go nowhere. It was more like, we'll see about that. Then they see Fast Freddy. Fast Freddy looked bad. So, and I really hate how some folks chose to try that stuff even after seeing how it destroyed the people around them. I felt a little bad for Freddy. So as they're watching Fast Freddy do his little dance, Teddy and Rat show up. Rat is like, let's go get some groceries. And when they drive off, you can hear Teddy ask, if they were down for a party. And Jason tells Josh to be home by 8. Now, knowing how my brother is, it seems like he can't do right for nothing. He will have to go with me. Or I gotta stay with him because I know this man is not gonna do right. So you see everybody in the house waiting to surprise Josh. The mama was so happy. She was like, surprise baby, welcome home. But then she see that nothing has changed. Josh then grabbed a handful of cake. The guests are looking shocked and disappointed. The mama hurt. Jason annoyed. And the look that Gloria gave Rat and Teddy was like, why would y'all even bring him here like that? And Jason probably felt bad too because she told him to get him back there safely. And technically he did. But safely also means in good condition. Now in this scene, Gloria has on a red sweater. Red is usually associated with love. And when Josh first walked in, you could see all of the love on her face, the hope. But then her emotion went from love and excitement to emotional exhaustion, which is usually what tends to happen to a broken heart. Also, she's wearing a sweater as if she was bracing herself for the disappointment. Jason, on the other hand, has on another shirt that is layered. It's a striped, almost pastel colored shirt, softer colors, more nurturing colors, but there was still complexity in his shirt. And in that scene, he's trying to maintain peace in the midst of chaos. So Jason goes back to the front and he sees people starting to leave, and what does he do? He steps right back into his protector role. He turns on some music and he convinces his mama to dance with him. Once they start dancing, everybody else joins in. He plays Al Green's Let's Stay Together, which is literally what he was trying to do in the scene, trying to keep everybody together. He didn't want the antics of Josh to ruin the night. And the song was also like a love letter between Jason and his mama, as if he were telling her, I got you, mama. And she was telling him that no matter how down she gets, you always make me feel so brand new. Then it goes back to the nightmare and we get a little bit more of what happened that night. Jason wakes up in a cold sweat again. Josh over there sleeping like a baby. Jason gets up and starts working on one of his model planes, and I guess that's one of his ways to regulate his nervous system after one of those nightmares. So the next day we see Jason and Josh playing basketball, and Josh tells Jason that he sees that he's still having those nightmares. Jason didn't take too kindly to that, so he dunks on Josh and tells him to worry about himself and get a job, because he's not about to let him stress their mama out again. But Josh says all he needs to do is get Jason off his back. Jason says, didn't you learn nothing in prison? And Josh did not like that. So he pushes Jason to the ground, dunks on him, and says, that's what I learned. And he walks off. Jason runs behind him and says that he didn't mean anything by it. He's there to help. Just say the word and they cool. So they pound it out, and Jason asks Josh if he was going to do right. Josh says, yeah. And it sounded like a lie when he said it. Then we see them getting ready to leave for work. Josh, he ain't feeling it. He doesn't like that he has to wear a uniform or take orders from some French cook. Being in that type of position is soft to Josh. I bet he was more worried about what his homeboys would think, because Josh has settled with being a street dude. Remember, he said the bottoms, that's his world. Jason tells him to just do it for their mama because she begged her boss to give Josh a job. Jason, he drops Josh off and then he heads on to work. That's when his boss tells him that his cousin called and offered Jason the new assistant manager position in Dallas. Jason, he happy about it because that's all he been waiting for. Then we see the street preacher telling us about shit in the world and how it travels and sticks to you. It grows in your mind and makes everything nasty. And it won't let you forget. You can't get rid of it no matter what you do. And that was all about Josh. Basically, Josh is never going to change no matter how hard they try to help him and be there for him. His mind is tainted. So we see Gloria sitting on the porch and she looks so down. Jason comes to the door and he tells her to put on her prettiest dress because she is not going to believe what happened to him. But then he sees that something is wrong. She says, "For 7 years, I've been assistant manager. 7 years. I've been in charge of 8, sometimes 10 people at a time. Lord, I've had my problems. But in 7 years, my registers never come up short. And that made me proud. And in one day, my child took my 7 years for $10. I've tried to love him. It's been hard, but I've tried. I've thrown it to the streets long ago if you weren't in my house. Y'all like night and day." Then after she gets all of that off her chest, she asks Jason what was his good news. He tells her they could talk about it later. He asked her if she was okay, and she said that she was fine. Again, that is always her response, that she's fine, and it's clear that she's not. First off, I don't understand why she would even get Josh a job where she works. I would have never done that. I'm not about to risk my livelihood for Josh when I already know what type of person he is. And maybe that was just her way to try and show him that she was looking out for him. You see, Jason then try to get him a job where he work. But I think Elmo would have been like, "Are you crazy? It won't be a TV left up in here if I give your brother a job." So later on that night, Jason pulls up at the club. Teddy already knew why he was there, so he points at Josh over in the corner. Jason takes Josh outside and he want to know how can Josh steal from his own mama. He asked him, "Can't you do right?" Josh says, "Like who? You? I'd rather be locked up for life before I be like your punk is." And that right there should have let Jason know that his brother doesn't care. And the irony is that every time Josh is out, Jason is locked up. He's in a mental and emotional prison. He can't move through life the way he does when Josh is locked up. And that goes back to the survivor's guilt. He's punishing himself for their dad not being there. Josh called Jason a mama's boy. Jason tells Josh, "If you weren't drunk, I would kick your ass." And Josh says, "Oh, what'd I do? Did I get Jay upset?" Jason takes the bottle from Josh and breaks it. Josh says, "No, you ain't my daddy. Shit, I ain't got no daddy." And he does the finger grip. Then we get a flashback to that night. They make it home. Jason puts Josh to bed again. Josh and his funky breath is all up in Jason's face talking about, "I don't have those dreams no more, Jay. And it's all because of this." And he pulls a bottle from under his bed and takes a sip, which is crazy because he hated Mad Dog. He said that Mad Dog wasn't nothing but an old drunk, but he is his father's son in more ways than one. He started drinking to keep the ghost away from that night, and Mad Dog probably turned to the bottle to keep the ghost from Vietnam away. So back at work, Elmo is going on and on about Dallas, but then Jason said he can't take it. And Elmo is like, "Say that again? You're telling me that you won't pass up a salary job, $20,000 a year." Now that was a lot of money back then. "You better have a good reason." Jason is like, "Lay up off me, Elmo. I just can't take it." And Elmo already know what's up. He says, "It's that brother of yours, ain't it? Every time he get out, you start effing up." Jason says his mama needs his help, and that's what he's gonna give her. Then customers start coming in. You see this little boy asks Jason if he liked his plane, and he asks Jason if he ever throws up after flying. Jason says, I ain't never flown in a plane before. Then you hear someone say, sometimes you don't need a plane to fly. Then we see Miss Jada Pinkett. Jada look cute in that scene. Jason, he is mesmerized. She's like, you sell TVs? So she purchases a TV, and as Jason is loading it, she's watching him from the side mirror. And you can tell she likes what she sees. So after he loads the TV, he takes her the keys, introduces himself, but she's playing hard to get. She says, can I have my keys? My brother needs his truck, and I do need to get to work. He asked her whether she worked, and she says, why? You looking for a job? He says he was thinking one night they could go out. And she says, well, if it's meant to be, you'll find me. Then she drives off. So then we see Josh out there selling with Teddy and Red, and one of his cellmates was out there too. And he asked Josh if he was tired of all that nickel and diming it. But Josh is like, I got my gig. I'm good. So dude was like, alright. So they dap it up. He leave. Red is like, you need to watch that dude, man. And then you see Jason pull up. Jason asks Josh if he found a job. Josh says it's a recession. He'll just pound out the P and wait it out. Jason didn't find that funny, and he did give Josh a classified ad with some jobs that he circled. Rat can tell that things are about to go left, so he tells Jason that they need to go get something to eat. Then we head over to This Is It. And we see Lyric working in the kitchen. She drops off some cornbread at this table to these typical freaked out men. But one of them started nudging the other, and that's when we meet Alonzo. You can tell Alonzo is that dude in the hood. People either respect him or fear him. He knocks their food on the floor, and the guy is like, Alonzo, my bad, brother, I didn't mean anything by it. And instead of Alonzo taking up for his sister, he starts talking crazy, saying that Lyric needs to loosen up. Like he just stood there and embarrassed her, talking about he ain't gonna lose no sleep if she's mad at him. Then we see Marty. She goes slobbing all over Alonzo, talking about, that man. She went and gave Lyric a hug, talking about that man, girl, gives me chills. Lyric gonna say, just like a nightmare. So Marty quotes a poem, but Lyric, she ain't in the mood. Marty wants to know what's up with Lyric and her attitude. Lyric says her orthopedic shoes aren't working. She's tired of serving these hungry Negroes. And Lil Red just showed up. So Marty tells her to go and get on out of there, and she'll cover for her. Then Jason and Rat walks in. Now Marty was just over there kissing all over Alonzo, but then she starts flirting with Jason. Jason, he ain't paying no attention, but Rat is, so he hits his tray against the counter and says, chicken, black eyed peas, corn on the cob, sucker, and one of them pickles. So she ignores him and says, and you? And that's when Jason sees Lyric. She looks him up and down, turns to Marty and thanks her again. Marty says, oh, night night, Lyric. Now he has her name. And he rushes out the door behind her. Lyric is sitting there waiting for the bus. He sits with her and says, you said if it was meant to be that I would find you. Well, I found you. So he starts laughing and says that the bus wasn't going to be on time because that was meant to be. But the bus was right on time. Lyric gets on and says, well, I guess it wasn't meant to be. Jason, he runs back to the diner to get his keys from Rat, and he saw this couple. They had a bouquet of roses on the table. He bought the roses from them, followed the bus, and started following behind Lyric. She looks around and rolls her eyes because she is not in the mood for any of this. And Jason, that was kind of stalkerish. So he slowly rides behind her. He says, beautiful night, ain't it? She says, magical. Jason says, dang, you cold. Are you always this difficult? Lyric wants to know if he could find somebody else to harass, but Jason thinks he's being charming. Lyric says, wrong. He offers her a ride. She says, look, I don't know you. For all I know, you're a gangster, and I don't ride with no gangsters. Jason reassures her that he is not a gangster. He has a job. He sells TVs all day long, eats chicken almost every day because his mama works at Frenchie's, and he has nightmares that he's gonna wake up one day and cluck like a chicken. And that sort of breaks the ice and makes Lyric laugh. So he's like, is that the life of a gangster? When she turns around, he says, made you smile. Baby Lyric dropped that smile so fast and said, so? Then he watches her go to the house. He stops her and says, look, I ain't even gonna ask you on a date. I just want you to hook me up, Tell me where you're gonna be so I can be there too. If you're going to the market, I want to be in the same aisle. If you're going to church, I want to be in the back pew. Just want to see you again, that's all. I promise. I won't even talk to you. I just want to see you again. Lyric listens, then she walks off. Jason drops his head and starts to head to his truck. But then you hear Lyric say, anywhere? And Jason says, name the place. Lyric says, the old trestle bridge, when the sun leaves footprints across the sky. Jason says, excuse me? And Lyric tells him to meet her tomorrow night at 7. Then Jason remembers the flowers. He takes them to her and she takes one. And that was very poetic, very whimsical. The one rose said that she wasn't trying to be thirsty. She still doesn't know him like that and she's trying to be cautious. Lyric is staring up at the moon. Jason is staring at the flowers. So Jason does show up and Lyric is already standing at the top of the bridge. It looks like Jason had second thoughts at first, but he goes ahead and climbs up there. He spits out his gum and listens to how long it takes to hit the water. He's like, this is some crazy She tells him to hush, and she asks him where did he think the bus was going. He said he didn't know. She said it was great not knowing where the bus was going because that could be any place you want. And it was kind of like dreaming. He jokes and asks her if she was planning on eliminating herself. And she says, I knew you would understand. Jason says, you must come here a lot. And she says that it's the best place to watch the sunset. And Jason says, I ain't never really watched the sunset before. So they finish their date. He drops her off and asks her when could they get together again, and she told him to surprise her. So the next day he's helping his mom bring the laundry in, and he wanted her advice on where to take somebody special. The mom could tell that Jason really likes whoever this young lady is, and she tells him about the time Mad Dog took her on the picnic. And you can see her reminiscing on the good times. So they go in the house. And Josh has just cooked Sunday's dinner. And I ain't gonna lie, that food looked good. He was so proud of himself. But what does she do? She starts to throw the food away. Josh doesn't understand why she would be throwing it away. She says she'll die before she feed her family with drug money. Josh says, how do you know I didn't get it the honest way? And she tells him, every time you get out, I pray that it's going to be different. Then she goes to throw the roast out, but he stops her. Not the roast, mama. I paid $20 for that. Yeah. And she tells him, if you ever bring any more drug money into my house again, the doors will be locked. And he can't believe she said that. Josh looks at her and says, now I see why a man can beat you. And she slapped the taste buds out of his mouth. And he was about to put his hands on her, but Jason stopped him. Then she says, I knew that Mad Dog's ghost was somewhere to be found, but I had no idea it was in my own house. And you know Josh didn't like that because he despises Mad Dog. That's the last person he wants to be compared to. So Josh snatches away from Jason, flips the table, then he storms out. Now there are a lot of mixed feelings about this scene. Some folks say they would do the same thing, and others say they would have eaten it. I feel like I understand Gloria's reasoning. It's like, if I let him slide with this, then he may start to bring other things into the house that may put them in danger. I don't think I would have thrown it out. Even if I felt the way that she did, I probably would have said something like, oh, baby, my stomach's so messed up, but I'm going to eat some later. And say, let me go take something and lay down. And I would have thanked him for making the food and told him everything looked good, smelled good. You boys go ahead and eat, but don't eat it all up. And I think Josh cooking that dinner was his way of apologizing for making her lose her position at work. But I also think that Josh held on to that memory of seeing Gloria being happy that Jason offered to set the table. And that's why he decided to make that dinner. And he was so proud of himself. You could see it in his face. He was looking at her like he wanted her to say, you did a good job, baby. This look good. I can't wait to eat. But she didn't. She started throwing the food out. And Josh saying, "Now I see why a man can beat you," is very reminiscent to Mad Dog saying, "I ain't good enough for you." So Josh goes right out of the house, carjacks this lady, steals her jewelry, takes the car to the chop shop, and only got $250. Just crazy. So he rather do stuff like that instead of working a real job or even trying to find a better hustle. So the dude asked him if he thought about what they talked about. Josh says he already has his gig, and dude like, "Yeah, a gig, but think about what I'm telling you." And I think the reason dude wants Josh to get involved so bad is because Josh is a hothead, and they probably could put him up to do anything. Then we see the bus pull up, and we see the doors open, and there's Jason, and he tells her the ride's on him. And she asks him what was he doing, because she didn't tell him to go steal no bus. Lyric is a little leery, but then you see them enter this old bus station. The architecture in that building was beautiful. When he takes the blindfold off, Lyric is looking up at this amazing mural on the ceiling. They have their picnic, and she is so impressed. They slow dance, and then you see this montage of dates that they go on. Then we see them at the bayou. Jason feels like it's quiet, but Lyric tells him that it's full of music, and you hear all the sounds of nature. They take a boat ride, and then Lyric starts to role play. And those are one of the things that Jason likes about Lyric, that she shows him things that he's never seen before. That's what he told his mom. He washes her feet. Then you see them begin to explore each other, and the scene changes to them being in a field of flowers. And those were Jason's happier time. If you go back to right before they start role playing, you see two swans in the water. And I think they were showing us what Jason and Lyric's love was going to become. Because when you think about it, swans or cygnets, which what the babies are called, often start out with this brownish looking color before they transform into that beautiful white bird. And for the most part, neither of their lives are beautiful to them right now. It's stained with so many things, and all they want is the peace and beauty of something different. And this is where I noticed that Jason's clothes are starting to change. There were no more layers, single colors, and he was starting to shed the layers mentally and physically, just like his mom. When she was telling Jason about Josh stealing the $10, she had on a white uniform shirt, and I feel like it was at that point that she had washed her hands of Josh. Now over at the diner, Lyric and Marty are in the back, and Marty's pushing her girls up. Lyric asks her, why does she always do that? Marty said, girl, you know what they say, the bigger the girls, the bigger the tip. So Marty asks Lyric what was going on with her love life. She tells her that they went to the bayou, and that they walked and talked, and that Jason washed her feet. Marty says, what? Girl, what I would do for a nigga to wash these feet? Then Lyric closes her eyes and says, and he laid me down so gently. Marty says, Lyric, you made love. Then she quoted lines from John Donne's poem, The Bates. Lyric tells her that there is somebody out there who can give her the same thing. And for a quick second, it was like Marty was allowing herself to believe what Lyric was saying. And she was looking like it really touched her that her friend thought that she was deserving of that kind of love. A love so gentle and sweet. But just as quickly as she thought it, she snapped herself out of believing that for herself. Then you hear the song, I Know I've Been Changed. You see Josh meet Alonzo. Alonzo tells him, if you get with me, you could be making 3 G's in one night. He says it's easy as taking candy from a baby. Josh want to know, if it's so easy, then why you need me? Alonzo let him know, I don't need you. I'm doing this as a favor for my homeboy. Josh says he'll think about it. So Alonzo tells them why they thinking about it, to get they broke asses out of his face. Can't you see him trying to catch the Holy Ghost? Now at the same fair, Lyric and Jason are there. They having a good time. Josh, he over there acting a fool, drinking, stealing carnival animals, pulling the grip on the carnival attendant. His homeboys trying to stop him. He gets mad, calls them simple. Josh, he looks over, sees Jason over there happy, at peace. Jason and Lyric gets on this carnival ride. What happens? Josh goes join them on the ride. So while on the ride, he's trying to touch all over Lyric. Lyric is telling him to stop touching her. Jason, get your brother. When they get off the ride, that's exactly what Jason does. But Lyric gets mad at him. Jason punches Josh. He falls, and Jason gets on top of him and tells him that he's a clown. Josh apologizes and says it was a joke. Lyric tries to get Jason to stop. She says, Jason, he apologized. Jason says he didn't mean it. And Jason tells her that she doesn't know when his brother is telling the truth and that she don't know what she's talking about. Josh gonna tell Jason that he was playing him in front of his crew. Jason like, yo, crew? Man, you can't even get paid. Josh says he can get paid. Jason tells him, well, show me you can get paid. Josh gets up, gets his grip from Rat, and storms off. Rat tells Jason, you tripping, man. You know he out there. That's your brother. And I don't like that. I don't like when people feel like just because somebody is family, you're supposed to accept their messed up ways. So Jason has been the one looking out for his brother. Rat and Teddy don't care about Josh the way Jason does, because if they did, they will make sure that he made better choices instead of living by the, well, you know, that's just how he is mentality. Then we see Preacher Man again. And he talks about how love is a hurting thing and how you have to fight for it. Then we see Lyric show up at the TV shop where Jason is, and they make up for their little spat earlier. So after they finish, they're just laying there. He asks her to stay with him because he just wants to sleep without nightmares for one night. The next day, we see Alonzo going over the plans for the robbery. Of course, Josh isn't listening. He tells Alonzo that he might want to do a little shopping. Alonzo asks him if he wanted to shop for that cap. So Lyric, she's standing at the door listening to all of this. When she walks out, Josh recognizes her. He watches her leave, and Alonzo wants to know why was he looking at his sister. Josh still playing games and says that, well, he gonna have to tell his brother to move aside. Child, Josh is slow. So we see Lyric and Jason watching the planes take off, and she asks him why did he like planes so much, and he tells her about his daddy taking them to watch Old Man Johnson water his wildflowers. As Lyric is listening to the story, you could tell she's contemplating whether or not she should tell Jason about the robbery, and she did. I wish she hadn't. I wish she would have just stayed out of it. So Jason drops Lyric off. Lyric tells him not to try and cross Alonzo. Jason says that he's only going to talk to his brother. Then Lyric explains that she stopped dating guys from the war because she got tired of wondering if she was going to find them in a body bag. She asks Jason to promise her that he was only going to talk to Josh. He promised. She leaves to go in the house, and he tells her that it's time for them to get on that bus anyway. He tells her that it's time to stop watching them and just get on one. And she asks him if they could leave tomorrow. He tells her to meet him at the pier when the sun neck leaves footprints across the sky. The next morning, you see Josh outside working out. Jason interrupts his workout, and then Jason asked him if he thought he was man enough to rob a bank. And Josh immediately knew who told him. Now, I don't know why Jason would start to talk down on his unstable brother at a time like that. That wasn't going to help anything. Josh asked him if he thought he was that slow. He said he knew nobody else around there believed in him, but thought out of everybody, Jason would. So he gives Jason his grip and says, you can't rob nobody without a piece, Jay. So you see the other guys over at the bank, and it's about 9:33. And guess who comes stumbling in? And that causes a distraction to where the guard gets a shot off. Alonzo had to pop him. Josh is just letting pops off all over the place. They're telling him they gotta go. He's talking about we gotta get the money. They push past him and run out. This man takes off his mask and start hitting on some dude for his watch. The man can't even move because Josh has hit him so many times. And since he's not responding or giving up his watch, Josh gonna say, you disrespecting me? You dissing me? Yeah, this man is gone. He gets the watch, runs out of the building, and Alonzo them are out there waiting for him. They take him back to the chop shop and has him hanging up like a slab of ribs. Alonzo messed out of Josh. Josh says it's not his fault. It was Lyric who told Jason about the robbery. Alonzo doesn't believe him. He looking like my sister ain't no snitch. So he tells the guys to put Josh out with the trash. Back at the house, Jason and his mama are washing dishes. He tells her that him and Lyric are planning on getting on the bus and just leaving. She says, your brother gonna miss you. Jason says that Josh is gonna be alright. Then he asks his mama, why can't you just be happy for me? And that's when Josh comes stumbling in like he just escaped the chainsaw massacre. He puts Josh in the shower. Jason says, Alonzo did this to you? You know I'm gonna take care of you, man. And back over at the chop shop, the guys are trying to figure out why Alonzo just let Josh go like that. Alonzo basically says he's gonna take care of Josh and Jason at the same time. So when Alonzo goes to the restroom, Jason sneaks him. They get to tussling, but Jason got the best of Alonzo. He leaves there and meets Lyric at the bayou. She sees him from a distance. She doesn't notice his shirt until he gets closer. And she already knew they weren't going nowhere. She said, you got in the middle, didn't you? Jason says, it's my family. They need me. My brother, they need me. She said, no, I need you. Lyric tells him that she needs him. And she really doesn't want to hear anything that he has to say. She tells him that's probably why she spent most of her life fantasizing, because she can't stand that ghetto shit. She says, Jason, I am trying to love you, but I don't want my heart broken. But that's exactly what you're gonna do if you keep trying to save a brother that don't want to be saved. Then she asked him, what kind of hold does Josh have on him? And why was he having all of those nightmares? And he tells her that she might as well go ahead and leave because his life is so messed up. Then he tells her the story of that night. And that's when we learn that Jason was the one who actually pulled the trigger. But it wasn't intentional. He was taking the grip from Josh. And when he heard Mad Dog approaching, he turned around and it went off. Jason is crying. He's broken. He says that he just wants his daddy back. Lyric tells him that it's not his fault and that he's just trying to be a hero. She tells him to walk away or they can't be together. Jason is at home going through some old pictures of his dad and how the family was in happier times. Gloria says, I guess it's easy to walk around with blinders on and not notice the sacrifice people are making for you. And she's talking about Jason. I think at this moment she realizes that Josh wasn't the only burden Jason was carrying. She placed her burdens and emotional trauma on Jason's shoulders too. And she didn't fully recognize Jason's sacrifices because she unconsciously depended on them. Now while they're sitting there, they didn't hear Josh walk in. But I really feel like the mama heard him, and that's why she told Jason to go to Lyric. Josh hears her tell Jason that he doesn't owe her nor Joshua anything. She told him that there are no debts in that house. She says nobody unalive Mad Dog. He passed away in that war. They just didn't bury him. Then she tells him to go to Lyric and be happy. And when she says that, Josh looks disgusted. The next thing we see is Josh sitting at the club in front of a shattered mirror, loading his grip, the same way Mad Dog was sitting in front of a shattered mirror right before he went to Gloria's house that night. Josh also put on his dad's dog tags. He had on military colors. It feels like a cycle of trauma. Neither one could see themselves clearly. Mad Dog and Josh both were experiencing an emotional collapse right before they went and destroyed other people's lives. Then we see Jason packing, and he looks as if he's thinking about whether or not he's about to make the right decision. Over at Alonzo, the guys want Alonzo to tell them who jumped him, but Alonzo says he wasn't jumped, he tripped. But they're not buying it. Upstairs, Marty is telling Lyric that she shouldn't have told Jason about the robbery. And she tells her that she needs to call Jason and stop moping around. Then she gets up and she says, I know that Alonzo's not perfect, but I'm going to hold on to him because he's all I got. The wars ain't full of Jasons. Then she told Lyric that what she found with Jason was quiet in a world full of thunder. And at that moment, Alonzo yelled for her to bring her fine tail downstairs. And all she could do was close her eyes and inhale, which was sad because I don't think that Marty would ever exhale with Alonzo, because Exhaling is a release. You exhale when you feel safe. And even though she said that Alonzo was all she had, it's because she isn't allowing herself to believe for more or better. She's staying with what's familiar. Marty said that Alonzo was all she had, and that's because she won't allow herself to think outside the ward. She settled with her circumstances, whereas Lyric, she dreamed beyond the ward. And she found somebody who was willing to dream with her. Lyric found Jason. Or Jason found Lyric. I think when it comes to Marty, the poems that she memorized were her way to escape. The poems were her emotional outlet. Her Jason. Those poems and stories allow her to use her imagination to go places and experience the type of love and relationships that she knew she couldn't get from Alonzo. And I think the reasons she told Lyric that she found something quiet in Jason and to call him is because she loves her friend. And if she didn't call him, I think Marty was afraid that Lyric would become her, stuck in the familiar when she could have been living in her heart's desires and not living her life through a book. Lyric could live it in real life. Then we hear Rat and Teddy beating on Jason's door, telling him that Josh had lost his mind and he needs to hurry up because they don't know what he might do. Marty and Alonzo are over there making out, and Alonzo wants a little bit more than kisses, but he doesn't have any protection, and that irritates Marty when he says that it's alright that he doesn't have any. And she says, alright for who? She told him, don't start the fire unless you can hose me there. Alonzo and Marty, they leave eventually. Lyric is standing on the balcony and she sees a car pull up. Jason them, they rushing to Lyric, but they get caught by a train. He gets out and, jumps the track. Lyric looks out to the street and she sees Josh. This man has 2 grips. He takes out the 2 dudes that were sitting on the porch. Then he heads upstairs looking for Lyric. Alonzo and Marty are in an alley getting it in, whereas Lyric and Jason were in a peaceful field that turned to a field of flowers. Remember, Marty told Lyric that she had made love. Marty is over there getting elfed. You see what I'm saying? So, and I don't have any clue. Why would you go to the alley when you were at a house with bedrooms? But anyway, Josh goes upstairs looking for Lyric. I wish she would have stayed in her hiding spot. So Josh, he grabbed her and asked her where was Alonzo. Then he asked her why was she trying to take his brother away from him. He let her know that she can't have Jason. She can't take him away from him. Jason makes it to the house and he goes upstairs. When he calls Josh's name, Josh says, I knew you'd come. You always there to pick up the pieces. He asked Jason if he saw the 2 dudes that were downstairs. Jason said yes, and Josh says, I took care of that. All we gotta do now is wait for Alonzo, and you ain't gotta go nowhere, man. Jason agrees that he doesn't have to go anywhere, but asks Josh to just let Lyric go because she has nothing to do with any of it. But Josh says he can't let her go because they have to use her as bait. Jason says, we can still let her go, and me and you, we can take Alonzo together. Josh wants to know why is Jason still talking about Lyric, and that sets him off. He tells Jason that he's putting Lyric above him. He says, what about me, man? What about me? Jason can't believe Josh had the nerves to let those words come out of his mouth. And he says, what about you? What you mean, what about you? I spent my whole effing life for you. He tells Josh, I can't do that no more, man. Josh says, oh, I'm tired of you telling me that I'm effing up, man. He points out again that he took care of the dudes downstairs. Jason is tired. He lets Josh know that he didn't take care of anything, that he effed up. And Jason doesn't need that in his life anymore. Josh tells Jason that he doesn't need him. I don't need you, man. So Jason puts the grip to Josh's head and tells him to not make him have to do that again. Josh cocks his grip, looks at Lyric, then back at Jason, and he asks Jason if Lyric was taking them away from him. Jason tells Josh that he loves him, but Josh is like, well, I ain't got nothing. I ain't got nothing, man. And then he accidentally pulls the trigger. and Lyric hits the ground. The same way Jason accidentally pulled the trigger and his daddy hit the ground. Josh says, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it, man. Then he grabs the barrel of Jason's grip and puts it to his head and then tells Jason to let one off. I feel like he was just being manipulative. Jason no longer sees Josh. He lets the piece go and tries to get Lyric off the floor. He's crying and telling her that he's ready to go. He's begging her to get up. Josh is still apologizing. He says he's sorry, that he didn't mean it. He tells Jason that he's all he's got, that he loves him. And then he starts yelling at Jason and telling him, you can't go, man. You can't go. Jason picks Lyric up, walks past Josh. Josh slides down the wall and puts the grip to his head. There are a couple of people standing outside. Teddy and Rat that made it. They see Jason walking out the house holding Lyric. And once Jason makes it on the porch, you hear a pop. And Jason, Teddy, and Josh already knew what happened. Then Alonzo and Marty pulls back up. Rat tells Alonzo what happened and he's devastated. Jason, he takes Lyric to the ambulance. Then you see the field of flowers again with Mad Dog, Jason, and Josh. Then we see Jason and Lyric on the bus. Jason has on red, love. Lyric has on white, and I feel like it represents a rebirth, a cleansing. They have washed themselves of their past, and now they are moving towards their future. And overhead, we see the Rainmaker. Jason is able to get the magic back. And that is my recap, my deep dive of Jason's Lyric. Y'all please get down in the comments and tell me what y'all thought. Share y'all thoughts about the movie. And I'll talk to y'all later.